Everyone, it's Maddie. Today is a shorter video and it's a little bit of a itsy bitsy tiny summary on who Paris Hilton is, just in case you didn't know about her. This is like a short video on recapping like her most important bits and thinking about who she is and what we know about her and why she is so impactful to this day. To this day. Born Paris Whitney Houston on February 17, 1981, to parents Richard and Kathy Hilton of the Hilton Hotels. Yes, they're those Hiltons. It's not just like a coincidence, they're those Hiltons. So they're wealthy, wealthy. When they were younger, Paris and her family really moved around and hopped from place to place, going back from the East and the West Coast, up until Paris was of school age, where her and her sister Nikki went to a private all-girls Catholic school. Paris grew up in a conservative household. They were very Christian and they had really strict ideals growing up, And her and her sister Nikki went to that private all-girls school up until they were in 8th grade. Until they moved, which is when... Cut this out, okay, whatever. So when Paris was around 15, for her freshman year of high school, her family relocated to New York, and it was obviously a really hard time for her. She didn't really know anyone, and she knew she wasn't gonna like it because it was very different from LA, obviously. She transferred to PCS, which is Performing Children's School, a liberal arts like college preparatory school where a lot of famous people went, like Macaulay Culkin and Scarlett Johansson. So just to give you an idea of what kind of school it was. It was around this time when she made her debut as a socialite in the New York scene. Although friends from LA claim that she has been sneaking out to go to clubs ever since she was 13. But I don't know. When she moved from LA to New York, she started popping up with her sister Nikki, of course, in the tabloids everywhere because they obviously caught eyes. They were skinny, tall, blonde, and obviously very gorgeous. So they pulled eyes wherever they went. Paris took advantage of all the press coverage she was getting and ended up signing on Donald Trump's modeling label Team Management, where she shot for magazines like American Vogue, Vanity Fair, other kinds of magazines, but she was obviously kind of successful as a model at that point in time. In this point, Paris and her sister Nikki, who were around 19 and 16 respectively, were the it girls of the socialite scene. They were the trendsetters and they were on the cover of everything and everyone wanted to be friends with them. Although what really set Paris up to stardom was her reality TV show A Simple Life, which she co-starred with her childhood friend Nicole Richie. It aired a few months after her infamous home video A Night with Paris, which some people claim was actually publicity for the show, although Paris and her family and her team claim otherwise. If you somehow haven't run into a clip of A Simple Life, which is kind of impossible on the internet, it's basically the premise of taking Nicole and Paris, two obviously very wealthy city girls, and relocating them to a rural ranch, where they would live without the luxuries they once had and the things they once did. And it was basically just them adapting to everyday life. It had about 3 seasons until it got canceled because of an argument with Nicole and Paris, and then after they cleared up the air and made up, it resumed for another 2 seasons where it did have a bit of a twist where instead of they're just living on a farm, they're like working everyday jobs like at McDonald's and like DQ. It's a pretty interesting show. It's a fun watch. good to like just put on in the background and play. So after the show aired and during the show aired, Paris quickly became known for her dumb blonde personality and for one of her many, many catchphrases. One being my personal favorite, "That's hot," which appeared literally everywhere, and sometimes I still think of it to this day, although it is not in my vocabulary. Because Paris was such a trendsetter, she popularized those velour juicy couture tracksuits, which are seen everywhere around the early 2000s. Like, you literally couldn't like find a celebrity who was famous in that time who didn't own one of those shoes. I mean, one of those suits. She also popularized the accessory dogs that are so popular in rich white stereotypes we see today. And most importantly, she was the one who made being famous for being famous a thing. Like, without her, we wouldn't really know what that is, you know? She was friends with Lindsay Lohan and had Kim K as her sidekick, and she was kind of the it girl still for quite a while after this. She was the first ever influencer because a lot of fashion designer brands and clothing would take inspiration from her or have her there and wear and have them wear their clothes so it could obviously become a trend. So it's just kind of an example of the power she held. Although I'm not going to excuse her actions towards Lindsay Lohan, she was kind of a bully to her, especially because Lohan was at like one of the lowest points in her life, or was going to start the lowest point in her life, and that was really nasty. If you want to like know more about the beef between them, Mila Tequila has an amazing video on it. She's obviously better than me, but you know, it's whatever. Obviously, with the end of her show, she launched a few businesses. Well, a few is a small word for it. She's very business minded and she quickly launched a whole bunch of businesses of her own that were mostly fashion oriented. So it's a lot of clothing, um, fashion, clothing, fashion, makeup, perfume, handbags, sunglasses. It's said that Paris and her little sister Nikki used to sell stuff to their family members when they were really, really young. So that just kind of like sets in mind that Paris always kind of had this business mindset, which definitely aided her in the years to come. I personally have her perfume. I don't remember which one at the moment, but it smells pretty nice, although it isn't my thing. But I do know that my cousins and my aunt wore it for a really long time, so. Paris also inspired many characters in TV, including the White Chicks movie. She was obviously, parody there, and London Tipton from The Sweet Life of Zach Cody and The Sweet Life on Zach, which is an icon, by the way, Stan London. And without her, we really wouldn't be where we are right now, as in like social media influencers and celebrities. She obviously was way ahead of her time, I think, and we really didn't like credit her at the time, but now we do. And that kind of went to show when she launched um her documentary not a few weeks ago, but a while back, where she not only talked about how her dumb plump persona is obviously a character that people thought she actually like wasn't a character, but she also talked about some of the experiences she had while at a teenage like corrections facility. And although I don't condone some of her actions in the past, I do believe it was very brave of her to come forward with that and show a spotlight on things that obviously shouldn't be happening. So yeah, I kind of went off track here, but I just wanted to talk about a little bit more on Paris and why she is such an icon today. Like, even 20 years after her peak, so to say, we're still talking about her and she is still really, really famous and rich. So it just goes to show that there's more to what that Don't Plan persona showed at the time. I mean, obviously she's successful because, you know, yeah. Anyways, that's it. I just want to talk about Paris for a while. Bye.